Why don't they take? Obusuubuzi obwo nga bugenze maaso. Lighting's. You have to give a recap. A recap of yesterday. Very summarized.
That's
okay. Hey, ate no mbadde ndowooza we naabeera eno ekijobbayo. So kati nzije wano. Oyagala ne Herbert ajje. Nsobola okusembeza entebe eno. Okay, nice. It's actually much more comfortable here. So, ne camera yange eri wano. Which one is my camera? This one? Okay. Fenna? Okay. Kale. Ntandike? How many people are online?
more than 15.
Great. Can we have... let's start. Nsaba ku gundi. Nsaba ku... Okay. Kale. Can I start? Okay. Hello. Good morning. I'm very happy to join you. It's a cold morning in Kampala. For people in Masindi and Iganga Kamuli and Jinja. I hope it's not as chilly as it is in Kampala, but we are braving and managing. Again, my name is Sarah Chizansigai and I'm the Executive Director of Native Voices International, but I'm also your moderator today. And yes. I have some presentations to make, just a few highlights about the program. But before I go further, I would like to again welcome Herbert. Mona. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
For people who were not with us yesterday, Mona Herbert, as I explained to the people who participated yesterday, is a communications development expert, but he's also the policy advisor for White Ribbon Alliance. White Ribbon Alliance are our partners and championing the cause of no woman should die while giving a life, but also generally reproductive health for newborns, mothers, and even disabled. Generally, they are into reproductive health. And of course, Herbert shed more light about that yesterday. And today, he's going to give a recap, summarize for the benefit of people who were not able to join yesterday of exactly what White Ribbon Alliance is about, but specifically respectful maternity care. What is respectful maternity care? Welcome, Herbert.
Thank you.
Yes, over to you.
Okay. Morning once again. As Sarah has ably introduced me, my name is Mona Herbert, and I advise White Ribbon Alliance with advocacy here in Uganda. At the same time, I'm always looking at how we can always build collaborations that are fruitful and beneficial for different actors. And what has been happening is that in the last 15-20 years, at least moving away from media, I've worked in the development sector, which is really an interesting sector because you really get to connect with communities, you talk to people, you listen firsthand what issues people are raising. So this is important. And then you use this information to either project impressions to talk about issues. And from a media perspective, I think we can play a very big role, especially when it comes to what can be our role in trying to advance an agenda. And this is what we are coming now to do with White Ribbon Alliance collaborating with Native Voices International, focusing on a particular theme under health, which is maternal health. And under maternal health, specifically honing in on the issue of respectful maternity care. And that's what we talked about yesterday, briefly in the beginning, and that's what we're going to kind of build on today. as we move towards our physical orientation. We are media. And we ask ourselves the central question, what is it that we can do to bring our expertise and play a vital role in trying to promote health issues, development issues, issues that matter to people. So when we talk about White Ribbon Alliance, and shortly I'm going to give a very brief overview of this specific project, which is Advocacy for Respectful Maternity Care, we are interested in knowing what can media support in terms of advancing the issue of respectful maternity care, in terms of advancing that advocacy. Now, media, for me, as a person who has been in media and crossed over to development, I see it as a very, very important stakeholder who can play a vital role in advancing social development economic issues across the spectrum. So what we are going to be doing with Native International, Native Voices International, is to build an agenda around respectful maternity care. But the interesting part is this, that the way we want to work is, they're not telling us that do it only this way or do it that way. We're already media experts, so it gives us a lot of room to explore. It gives us a lot of room to innovate how we want to bring this agenda using media and advance advocacy. Now, you may not know it, but from a media perspective, always when we are seated in development circles, they see media as very good allies, as very good stakeholders. And I always make the argument that as far as I'm concerned, media can really play a very vital and central role when it comes to development issues. And I think that is the other arm that I represent now, that moving forward, I would want to work with Native Voices, I would want to work with you guys, beyond even the theme that we are going, which is our starting point, to really see how media can move forward in advancing advocacy and push agendas that can really speak for themselves here in Uganda. And we'll be able to define our role as media practitioners and how we want to see ourselves contribute in this space. It's a really wonderful space, and within that space we can innovate. And that's what we now. Let's put our focus to respectful maternity care, where we have stakeholders like Native Voices International. We are also supported by USAID, who gave us kind of like a seed fund project. And also we want to see what White Ribbon Alliance is trying to advance. Now, we come in, we pick our understanding of respectful maternity care, media professionals, and see how we want to advance that. That's basically what we are supposed to be doing. For me, the interesting part is that they are giving us an opportunity to innovate, to do whatever we want to do, and to use this space and build platforms and advance this agenda. And that should give us a good beginning for the future, that in the future we will be able to contribute. In case you're listening, please mute. And then to move forward. So I look forward to us having our interactions, our conversations. For me, that's going to be the fun bit. And to see what kind of volume of products and outputs and deliverables that we are going to do. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to really open ourselves and innovate. Let's not be blocked by what we always do, that this is what I do and the like. And the other thing that I want also to again emphasize, I talked about this, Sarah, yesterday, is use the space and the opportunity to coalesce and merge with others and learn. I mean, it's very possible that all you've always done is videography. You do a news file once in a while. You only focus on news reports. But you're going to be meeting people who are writing features, people who are doing documentaries, people who are interested in building narratives that help people understand issues and the like. Interact with these people and use the opportunity to learn how they do what they do, and then expand on your craft. There is no harm in you being a person who can write, who can do a documentary, who can do a docudrama, who can do this and the like. The one person that I know for sure who carries all these hats is seated next to me. She can do so many things. So Sarah has picked a lot of skills, but I think she will speak for herself when she says, for me it's always interesting and intriguing to meet people with skills, and I always want to learn. So don't look at Mona as a person who comes in here because they've said I'm an advocacy advisor and you think, oh, he knows it all. I don't. I'm coming in with an open mind, and I've tried to squeeze my brain as a sponge to learn as much as I can from you, and for us to help each other to work together and then to build these narratives that are going to advance the issue of respectful maternity care. Now let me use just respectful maternity care, but I'll come back later with the PowerPoint presentation. If you look at our mothers, and you look at any woman who is giving a life, who is expecting, who is going to give birth, these people are important. You and I exist because those people played their role, our mothers. The question that we have is, under what circumstances from the point when they go through conception, and when I talk about conception, I'm talking somewhere where they are somewhere with someone and a woman becomes pregnant. That's the starting point. To a point when they have their baby and even go through the postnatal care to raise their babies, their newborn babies, say 1 year after they've given birth. There are a lot of interesting events in all that space. Let's say 18 months, okay? But it's very important for us to remain cognizant of the fact that these women have to endure and give birth through all kinds of conditions. Now, the ideal would be care for a woman, an expectant woman, look into their issues. When they need to go to hospital, please escort them, carry them, you know. Let the doctors come and talk to them very nicely. When they deliver, let them have all the options. If they want to be with their partners, their husband, their spouse, or an auntie, let them be standing next to them. Let them have all the necessary equipment and all the necessities that they need to prepare for their birth, okay? And let them go home. I can tell you personally, for me when I was growing up, all my siblings who followed after me, my mother would come home with a baby, and that was exciting. It was like it's more than Christmas, it's merrymaking. But what used to happen in the next 3 months, you would always see midwives and nurses coming home to visit my mom. And they look after her, they care for her, they ask her if she's feeding right, if the baby is feeding right, and all these things. I don't know if you guys see this anymore. So ask yourself the question, if this is the ideal, is it what is happening? Or as opposed to that, we hear stories of women being slapped. We hear stories of domestic violence where a woman who is carrying a child is being kicked by a spouse. Okay? Are we hearing stories of young girls during COVID? I'm sure you all heard of Uganda's teenage pregnancy numbers and the data, which was alarming. More than 100,000 teenage pregnancies that we had in the country. What happened? Is it that it's only within when children are in school that we can create safe havens for young girls? Okay, now that they are pregnant, what's going to happen? Okay? Freely walk into a hospital and ask for antenatal services, or do they have a lot of stigma? Why is it? Is it because the service providers are going to ridicule them and tell them, now look at her at 14 coming in with a pregnancy? What happened to you? What's wrong with the kids of today? All these things are happening within those events, but do not forget, this woman who is expecting is carrying a baby. Their mental, psychological and physiological well-being will determine the well-being of this child or this life that they are bringing into the world. So when you hear women who've given birth to children and thrown them in pits, in pit latrines, on Kasasiro or in dumpsters and the like, ask yourself, why would a person who is carrying a child throw a new, freshly born baby on a dumpster and walk away? This is our entire realm, and it's up to us to investigate. But remember what I said yesterday, that we want to do this for a specific reason. We want to have a highway that this is what we are contributing to. Otherwise, we don't just do it for fun. There should be a reason why we are doing this. And it's that passion, that condition that's going to drive us to use the expertise of media to do advocacy on the issue of respectful maternity care. We need to define within our context what respectful maternity care is. And as much as even in our physical training, or those of you who will still continue with the training online, we will talk about the respectful maternity care charter, we will have to domesticate it and put it within our context and then validate. Does it make sense? Doesn't it make sense? Have we even reached 1 or 2% of what the charter says, or we haven't? If the reality is we haven't, why is that the issue? If we have, what are those facilitating factors that have helped for us to fulfill some of these issues? And I also say that when you look at the service providers, including those that they say beat women when they go to hospital during child delivery or childbirth, ask yourself, why do they do this? Don't condemn them first. Be the journalist and find out the reasons why this is happening, okay? And I'll end by sharing a story that was given to us by midwives and nurses in Iganga. Kamuli, not Iganga. Some of the nurses gave us feedback, and they told us that some of their colleagues actually have psychological issues and they need psychiatrists, okay? And we asked them, why is this the case? And they said it's because of the overwhelming work and the trauma. Because sometimes they see mothers lose their children during childbirth. So you can only imagine what a midwife goes through an entire week. Just give a given day and then call it a week. It accumulates to a month and then to a year. And nothing you know, you have a midwife who says, I have 20 years of service under my belt. They've been helping women to deliver their children, their loved ones. So when you look at the service providers in Uganda and the realistic conditions under which they offer these services, you need to evaluate that carefully as a journalist and ask yourself, should I even be pointing fingers to these people? Or should I just carry them on my shoulder and praise them that they're the greatest heroes that we have in this country? That said, it doesn't necessarily mean that if they've faulted in their work or they've missed up on things that they should be doing, we should just continue praising them. No, but we just need to be objective where it's possible and be as objective as we can and have kind of like a holistic picture of the reality of our situation in Uganda, and then be able to raise all these issues to who? We want to target our information specifically to some audiences, and we will have to define those. So if you're one of our colleagues in this forum right now and you say, for me, I'm going to dedicate myself to write all my pieces, and I'll always target the parliamentarians, or I'll always target the Ministry of Health, or I'll always target the donors that they're not doing enough, or they're doing enough but they can do so much more, then you make that decision. But we need to be clear on who are we targeting our messages with through media, who are we bringing our themes and our information to. And that should be very, very important, because it helps us to narrow our focus, and so that our information goes right to the people it's intended for, and it's not all over the place. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward for us meeting together, interacting, and talking about the products and the work that we are going to do. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Herbert. That was very deep for the kind of time you had. I want to believe that the people who joined us today have sort of like caught up or got a sense of what it is we mean by respectful maternity care, but also not to lose hope. I think today the technical team is working on uploading yesterday's video. We are going to share a link and you can catch her. Yesterday we requested the participants here to create a WhatsApp group where we can communicate and people can get the information within the same period, and we get feedback that we can all share, which emails could do, but to be honest, people don't utilize them as effectively as they utilize WhatsApp groups. So with your permission, we'll be sharing the link in the WhatsApp group, and probably also email for some people who might not be on WhatsApp right now. I would like to, yesterday we talked about Native Voices International, I would just like to briefly say what Native Voices International is. And Native Voices International is a media arts organization, and we seek to apply our skills as media personnel and artists to actually empower and challenge communities to take charge of their self-determination. And that we do by one, going to communities and giving them platforms where they can discuss. We have a community outreach program, principally represented by the Mobile Cinema Project. Actually, that was our maiden project, mobile cinema and community screenings. We haven't done it in a long time, partly because of the COVID, where we were not allowed, but we found ways of still engaging communities, although to an extent target communities and virtually. Still, the experience we had with communities was incredible because, especially upcountry, you can reach thousands of people because the distractions are few. But then we realized that when we would reach those people, when we left, that was the end of it, because we did not have the resources to stay in an area for like a month. And then if you're doing a campaign, there is need for consistency. And I can share some of the campaigns we had. I think we had in northern Uganda a campaign encouraging men to go and test, because the women would be willing to test for HIV, but the men were not willing. But then we realized that while for us we wanted to promote health, the women had different expectations and issues that they wanted to discuss. Things as basic as men selling mosquito nets that they were given and children getting malaria. It was northern Uganda and they had just come out of the war, men selling the food that they had gotten. And so we changed and said we are not going to go to communities and assume we know and they don't, because communities are very informed and very knowledgeable. So the approach was to let them engage, and then it was amazing how much they would come up with, and like even the Ministry of Health was surprised, and in northern Uganda, even the district, because we managed in one night. There are times when we would get about 600 people to check their HIV status. So we realized that media is not patronizing, depending on the tone you choose to use. Yesterday I shared here that the tone is critical to how you are defined, because I think it was Muhammad or Moses who expressed concern that what if government doesn't like us exposing the incompetences in the health facilities. And we said we are not fighting government, what we are doing is their mandates, but what we are also going to have to do is to manage the tone where we are not confrontational but objective. It doesn't mean that you have not put out the information, but it means that you have put it out in a manner that is not attacking. And we gave an example of the Observer and how it also gives reports, the same reports that probably other media houses give. But their tone is such that they will give the information in a manner that even if government is not happy, they also agree that those facts exist. It doesn't mean they haven't got in trouble with government, but not as much. It also doesn't mean that other media houses who have the house styles they have are wrong. I'm just saying in this case we are going to adapt an approach that still brings out facts, whichever facts, but with a tone that is very respectful. So that is the same tone we used when we were in the communities, and people realize that it's actually for them to taste. And also the things we were talking about, like husbands accompanying their wives to health facilities, the benefits, but we also realized that the women were thirsting for a platform where they could talk, because in many of these communities women don't talk to their men, and women are not supposed to be seen to be talking because it's seen as fighting. And then we also noticed that the men were shocked to hear some of the things their wives were saying. People, they sleep under the same roof, and yet they didn't know that these are the things they thought, or they had this kind of information, or this is how they were affected. So for us as Native, the take back was to come and create a festival called Celebrating Womanhood Festival, where we are telling stories by women, for women, from a women's perspective. But that is one of the projects we have. So the other project, from northern Uganda, we went to West Nile, and we camped there for a month. We're in Zombo, where Josephine Ozing, who is on one of the cameras, comes from. I think that time she was a baby, she didn't see us. But we went to every community. We went to Koboko, Ajumani, Arua, and we had incredible impacts. And we would train people from those communities to actually, especially civic society and community-based organizations, because they're like, you've got many people, we've got feedback. So they definitely liked what we were doing, so we thought they would do it. And then we went back after some time, and we realized that it's only in Koboko where some youth group try to adapt what we are doing, because also what we do is drama. We act, and then we leave the issues hanging so that people come out with the solutions or comment on the drama. So there's a youth group that formed a drama group that was going out to communities. Then there was, I think he's called Alex. He was the DHO of Koboko. He also bought a projector. I think we gave him a camera. And he started going to communities and creating health awareness. Using the approach we used, but the other communities were like, that's not our assignment, we are not media people. For us, we do women. For us, we do AIDS. For us, so we realized that a campaign, we cannot have impact, meaningful impact, if we go to a community and spend there one night. So we decided, let us start introducing the multimedia skills in the communities, whereby instead of us going in one day, the people we trained can talk about those issues, but also the people from those communities understand where people are coming from and the aspirations and the values of those communities. For instance, if I go to Karamoja, where I went, I was, for instance, criticizing parents. I was guilty of criticizing parents for doing human trafficking, sending their children to the streets to send them money, because I felt it's the only culture that does that to their children and steal their future. But you see, the people we trained in Karamoja, even if they had a similar concern, had a better tone and a better understanding of why a lot of those children are on the streets, including things like all their cows were stolen during disarmament and they were never given the cows back. Understanding the culture of in Karamoja, once your husband has paid dowry, that is the end. No building the house, it's the woman. No educating, no bringing food. So a woman is overwhelmed. Where does she displace this? On the child. So the child, these children are helping their mothers, and the men, when the cows were taken, they have nothing to do. They have not understood. A lot of them, many other men, especially the young people, are coming out now to take charge. But the people in their middle ages and the older people will sit and wait for food and drink. So the woman will come and work and the man will take it. So imagine that woman. It's not like she has, what she's doing is right. But I, as an outsider, don't know where she's coming from. So it's the same thing with all the campaigns and things, including the respectful maternity care. It is not right to fight your woman, beat your woman, and all those kinds of things. But if someone is, for instance, in Busoga, that person may understand better why there is teenage mothers than I as an outsider. So they are probably better placed to inform policy, which interventions to take, to give a deeper analysis of what it is they should do. So as Herbert explained, because White Ribbon Alliance is a people-led movement. So in a way, we have a shared mission where we all believe that solutions and processes that take us to where we want to go should be championed by the supposed beneficiaries, the people themselves. So that's a shared mission. But then the media comes in. How the media comes in is that they have the capacity to communicate massively. They have the capacity to pick the information, interrogate it, and break it up in a manner that people can process. But at the same time, while we want to work with people who are coming from those respectful communities, they also understand the virtues, values, challenges, and reality, the conditions on ground. This is not to say it's okay, but to see how do we intervene and how do we together go forward. The story of Saul and Paul is a very important, Salt and Paul is a very important story. For me, I have a similar story in Karamoja, one of the most amazing warriors called Johnson Lokulapacho. When that guy was disarmed, UPDF said now, and Alakan, now we are actually going to disarm people, because he was a notorious warrior and many people in his community celebrated him. So the minute they managed to get Lokulapacho now was able to talk to other warriors, and there is over 300 warriors who had gone to Sudan, and to date he continues to mobilize, and he's now a peace warrior. But it's because he understood why they were warriors, what was happening, and why he had given up. Because Johnson told me he spent 2 days lying at a hut, bleeding, because they had beaten him. And he had seen that in as much as they were skilled and passionate, UPDF was mighty in terms of the equipment. So Johnson, more than UPDF, managed to convince many other people to come out of there. Same as the journalists who are coming from those communities are well placed to understand the issues and also understand how to inform the supposed beneficiaries or the affected parties, and also the policies and the people who are supposed to intervene. It does not matter. You see, I could come and probably I can take a story to CNN. But I'm telling you, a person who is in Busoga, in Jinja, will speak to the mayor better, because the mayor knows that this person always reports about me and I need them. So if you go and if I want to pass information and I come with a journalist based there and we go to the mayor, the results will be amazing, because the mayor knows that they need this person sometimes, and even if sometimes they may fight. So how do we hit that balance? So you understand why it is very important for us to understand that even media is culture. And I will give you an example. Around 2005, a lot of Kenyans came here, and I have no issue with Kenyans. I love them. By the way, I was supposed to be married to a Kenyan. But I am explaining that those are Kenyans and we are Ugandans. And those people decided Kenyans are more hardworking than Ugandans. Media houses here and hotels. And they went and picked Kenyans. And I remember having a conversation and saying, these Kenyans will go and will keep our jobs. The reason why I understood that is because media is culture. The way you're going to relate with people, the way you're going to talk to people. And I also remember I was in Mombasa and they were saying Ugandans are not hardworking. And I said, stop big brother mentality. Because Ugandans are hardworking, and when we came in the 80s in exile, you people did not have jobs. Why? Because we were hardworking and humble. We work the way we work. When I go to a Kenyan restaurant and someone hurls a plate at me because they're in a hurry to serve another person, I am turned off. But to another person, that Kenyan is first. Do you understand what I mean by culture? It's the same thing that applies to media. So the Kenyans actually went back, and we are in charge. We can improve, we need to work. Even the Kenyan managers, the nation group, some of you people come from Monitor, just got Kenyan managers. And I am not criticizing it, maybe they also good skills, but what came to pass, I hope some people mute their microphones. What also came to pass is the fact that, again, people will process, conceive, and appreciate what is from them, because it speaks to them. You can go as one person, but bombarding a whole industry and taking over, it can't work, because people come from their respective experiences, and the people who are from those experiences will understand best. We can visit a bit. The way matoke for me is food. Even if you give me pizza, Italian, whatever, lasagna, I will eat it once and I will enjoy it. The second day I want to eat matoke. It is a reality of life. And I cannot eat kalo, but the person who has been eating kalo cannot eat matoke for 2 days consecutively or 3 days. If they do, it's because they have to, not because they choose to. So as a media practitioner that is partnering on this project, that is how we hope you're going to take this, to understand that media is also culture. What are the cultural perspectives you're bringing on board, and how are you understanding that community from their aspirations, from their values, from where they are coming from. Then we will bring that into the charter that Herbert talks about. And now talking about the charter, I'll come and explain later how we are going to work, but it will be broken down to you. So we'll have another workshop where we are just discussing the charter, but it's going to be online, because when we come in Kampala, for the people who will be in Kampala and the ones who will be online, we may have a very congested program. So how do we start dealing with some of the things online? And it's going to be helpful. Christine will be sharing the charter so that you read it, such that by the time we discuss it, you're already ahead. So we know what we are asking from and expecting from policymakers. We know how we need to complement, and we know how to challenge them, and we know where the gaps are, because we have understood. So that is it. But we also need to read into the Ministry of Health. What is their mandate? What do health providers do? What are they supposed to do? What are some of the facilities and infrastructure that is supposed to be provided? So I think I have given a bit of native voices and tried to link it in with how we will partner with White Ribbon Alliance, or how we get together. What's the mission? I think the same mission of USAID is to promote reproductive health generally, but also respectful maternity care. So how do we domesticate it, picking the best? And I'll talk about what is the best. And Herbert hinted about it, because I was saying, when did people start beating pregnant women? And you know, we have not tried to look at the changes we've had. And especially as young people, we look at things and we say, life has got like that. But as journalists, we need to go above that and beyond that, and look at our history and the journey. Because, for instance, Uganda is the most hospitable country. It is said, okay, I will also say most, because I'm a Ugandan and I want to celebrate myself as a Ugandan. We are very hospitable. We have very humane cultures. So what has happened that has made us actually lose the humane cultures that we had, that we can beat people? And there are a number of things. And you see, there is a thinking that people who are not educated are not intelligent. That's why we are saying culture, talking to people and communities, because these old people will give you information and you will understand that life in itself, it's a school and it's a journey, and you learn a lot from school, because they will tell you we've had wars. We had wars in the past 3 decades. A lot of people that I'm talking to right now may not have experienced those wars. But the effects of those wars live with us because we had our mothers. For us, like, at the time we had the Civil War, we were very young. You would go to school and your mother doesn't know if you will come back, and you also going to school and you don't know if you will find your mother. So we are a tortured populace generation, especially those who were in Kampala and the areas where there was war. But then there is also the generation that the war produces. And when you are on the move and running and in the bush, maybe you're not inculcating cultures of raising children, of working hard, of I've just seen it in the past 2 decades where people can get polythene bags and rubbish and throw it in the trenches that take their water. But that is to do with the degeneration of morals, which war is a contributing factor, which migrations where nobody knows you so you don't care, which the new normal and globalization has introduced, and we decided everything that we knew was probably primitive. But when I understood that, then I understood that there is a lot of work we need to do. Because there's also things that we have lost, like, and I'm native, so when I talk about these things, don't be surprised. But I promote indigenous knowledge, the best of the indigenous knowledge. I'm not going to promote female genital mutilation, enslaving women because people think they are lesser citizens. That I am not going to support. But there are things in our culture that we can be, and our culture celebrated motherhood. In our culture, if a mother had a child, the whole community will bring things. They will visit, they will bring vianda, offers, because, and I will explain that we also thought, I think there's someone I told offers, and they said, offers, Sarah, why are you so primitive? I said, offers, they actually treat. That's why our people use them. They are very good for treating the wounds internally. And when a woman has just birthed, they have wounds inside. So, but I'm saying the baby became, from when they were born, they became a community baby. So this husband was also not going to, but that is when we also were living as a community, where your mother was there, your father was there, your auntie was next door. Now rural urban immigrations and all those kinds of things have taken us away from that community. And we as the new generation have not come up with new measures to continue community in the respective ways we are or where we are living, or to adapt to new measures that can incorporate the community we had. So a person might actually fight a woman and people will stare and say, that's their business. That was never the case before. So what is it that we have lost? What is it that men have lost? What is it that community has lost? Which explains why the White Ribbon Alliance wants to onboard the community and wants this to be a people-led campaign. And so we cannot leave out the community. And community is big. There's the artist community, there's the neighboring community, there's the journalist community, there's the leadership, and then the global community. And we are all part of the bigger project. So, as Herbert said, how do we speak to those respective communities? Where we will go later, not now, because this is a pilot. We are going to do it 3-4 months. Your performance, our impact is what will enable us to proceed and have maybe another 2 years or 3 years. In that one, for us, we shall go to community through community screenings, community engagements, drama, dialogues. But now that we don't have those communities now, we want to work with you to reach and onboard communities. How are we going to work with you to reach and onboard communities? So When we finish this orientation, we are coming to the districts where we are working. And that is Masindi, Jinja, Iganga, and Kamuli. So yesterday we explained that we have a partner
Also based in Kampala.
and also Kampala. But Kampala, we are looking at it as Kampala, but we expect the people in Kampala to also play a national role. Not that when you bring your story from Busoga or Masindi, you're not playing a national role. You are. Why? Because if we put it on national media, then people have picked it. But also, if we change your community, cultures can actually spread. We are impacting on those communities. But I'll also later explain how Native plans to work to actually make sure that what you have picked goes national in as much as it has been utilized in your respective communities. So back to what I was saying, that in your respective communities, you are journalists, you know the WhatsApp groups that are there, that are big, that when people get the information, they can share. You have contacts of your leaders, so you could guide us on some of the WhatsApp groups in your community, such that when we have a story, we can share. But we can also give you some of the stories that your friends have done, and you help us share in the communities. That is already spreading it to communities, because interestingly, if someone in Busoga likes it, they might share it with someone in Kablamaidu. So information will spread. So we will use the WhatsApp groups a great deal. Yeah, so when we come, we would like to talk to you. We are talking, especially in Busoga, to Fabio to help us mobilize some of the people they have been working with. So when we get there, we'll talk to them and we'll introduce them to you. And we'll tell them if they have stories to please reach out to you. That is for VHTs, for the district people, for the local leaders. Some of you are already working with Fabio. Then there's Masindi. We haven't yet decided exactly who to work with, but there is volunteers services. It's headed by Stephen, and we've been working with Stephen. So we are looking at volunteer services overseas, but we are also understanding that they are not exactly in health. So how do we also link up with them to connect us to other people in health? But at the same time, we have people like Ashraf. We have a number of people. We have 3 people in Masindi. We would like to tap into your contacts, such that when we come, apart from meeting the district task force team, we will also meet the VHTs. We will also meet the probably local leaders and other people who can share experiences and introduce you to them, and as you also introduce us to them. And then we advise them and encourage them to bring stories to you. And yeah, based on what you bring, then we can share it with the rest. So that's where we are going to start from when we come to your areas. Before that, when we finish this, we are developing an activity calendar. And some of the facilitators you're going to have, some of them are international. Herbert was talking about choices. And that's something that is seen as luxury here, or people who are spoiled. But when you get experts talking to you about that, you appreciate choice and a number of other things. So some of those people are already not in Uganda, so there is no need to wait for the face-to-face. We can already start talking to them, such that when we come to Kampala for the national lab, we are talking about a few things. Basically, we will be majorly doing themes and a calendar again. Yeah, and then the launch. And then for the people who may not come, it's not because you're any less. It's because we have a very limited budget. And that budget, we want to exhaust it so that we have strong impact, so that the program is extended, and it will be good for us, for you, and the other people who might come up in the future. But most importantly, the people who will celebrate, the people who will expose, and the people who will help save from their plight. And so that is contributing. That's why Herbert said, why are you into this? We want, in as much as you're into this, to probably tell stories, do headlines and whatever, but also to impact on your community. We have just concluded a shoot, I think it was around December, and one of the stories we built on was this guy who took a bribe. At the moment, he was taking a bribe because he wanted money to pay a debt. But he then goes to hospital. And the guy he gave, who was not qualified, who had fake papers, is the guy who has to come and operate him. So he says, you cannot operate me. And ironically, it is his wife who says, how could you have led to the death of many people? And he dies. But you see, other people sometimes don't die. But it is very okay to say, those people, me, I will even not have, I will make sure I take my child when my wife is going to deliver to Kampala International Hospital. But there's a time I fell sick in Moroto, and guess where they took me? I went to Moroto Hospital. So if I am not concerned about Moroto Hospital because it's Moroto, I am there. But even if it's not me, it's someone who is supposed to be the future president, it's someone who is to be. So let us be concerned. Someone's child. Let us be concerned about the country, and then we can criticize other people. And when Hannah talks to you, because we are in progressive discussions with her to facilitate a workshop, she's a Dutch doula. Doulas are traditional birth attendants, but trained, given proper training, so they are able to handle, and the law recognizes them, so they are structured, so it's possible to monitor them. But she explains to you that the way the child comes into this earth is very, very important, and we don't know these things, but these things are important, and as media we need to start picking them, because if, for instance, your father rejects you as a baby before you're even born, you come to this world as a reject. Half the time that person is going to feel as a reject. And I have had a conversation which is not connected to this, but when Herbert talked about it, I got thinking, how many, even you journalists there, ladies, even the men, how many of you have sat down and discussed with your partners that it's time we have children? How many? You as a woman, you can't tell the man, me, I'm pregnant. But the man had absolutely no plan to have a child. The man is not prepared to have a child. The man probably likes having a good time with you, but not to be the father of your child. Why are you forcing him to be a father of your child? But then our cultures have let women understand that when you have a child, whether the man has gone, you have continuity. Our cultures told us when you finish school, have a baby. They never warned us that you have to educate the child, you have to make sure they come into the world well, you will have to pay hospital bill. I have seen the people who call, excuse me. A pregnancy is 9 months. So in as much as we are condemning the people bringing, beating women, because they shouldn't we have a conversation with the mothers to plan? And then I've told my brother before, just because he was saying, I told that woman I don't want a baby, I won't say who of my brother because I have many, you won't know. I told him, cut out the nonsense. Because the issue of giving birth or preventing birth is not only to women. Why didn't you protect? And these are conversations you journalists need to put up, because when we are talking about respectful maternity care, it also goes back to those things.
Thank you.
So let us have those conversations. Let's think beyond. Let's not treat the symptoms. Let's also go to the root causes, which is why we are going to sit and identify themes. What is it we are going to talk about? And for us to have impacts, if you have a story that comes up, for instance, a breaking news story, a woman, something happened, or there is no health facility, or you have seen something that must be reported, let us know and let us have that. But if we have, and say today we are talking about children who came to this world and their fathers did not want, and their mothers, or family planning and how it aligns to the respectful maternity care, and we do those stories and they're coming from all over, they're going to have impact, definitely. So let us look into the themes, give us your ideas, we also give our ideas, and we come together and we come up with a concrete plan, because the campaign will run for like 2 months, but it has been running for 4 months. Part of these are also part of the campaign, what we are doing, but these are the processes. So I hope you understand when I say that we are starting with the workshops, then after the workshops, we are going to come for the national lab. When we come for the national lab, some will be online. We are going to come up with themes. We are going to come up with an activity calendar. We are also going to network, and you guys get to know each other. And because you give each other tips, you will share, you will discuss, right? But at the same time, we are going to launch the project so that people know there is a project. What I forgot to say that is that when we come to your respective regions, we shall also meet your editors, and we shall also meet probably other managers and explain to them the campaign, so that they don't start saying you have been paid. Why are you all alone doing this? So we shall acknowledge your media houses as part of our partners by them supporting you with your content when you're doing the content. And we shall also sometimes have conversations. So if you pick a story and you feel your editor might not take it up, we could have a discussion, but also we'll start with us discussing if we can journey with you how we can take that story. Not because we think we understand this better, but probably if we share. So we are also going to, which is where I'll come, but we are going to have a kind of an online review, which is internal, weekly, where we sit and say, what is happening in your area, we share ideas and stuff, and probably you tell us what story you're going to work on. But then let me go back to the launch. So when we launch the story, we hope you will blow it out of proportion, okay, blow it out big, so that people in your communities also understand this campaign. For the radios, because we have a very limited budget, and we want to do wonders with that, but we want to talk to the radios to see if they can support us editorially, where they have mentions about respectful maternity care. And unfortunately, we can only do like 1 or 2 radios, even if we want to do many. But if this is successful and we continue in the next 2 years, I can guarantee that we'll engage more radio stations, engage more TV stations. We don't have a budget for the TV stations. That's why we would love to talk to your editors and managers to understand that this is also corporate social responsibility. Not understand, but appreciate, because we also know media owners have challenges, costs, they have salaries to pay, bills to foot. But if they can come on board, it will be largely appreciated. So when we come, those are the conversations we are going to have. So after we finish the national lab, we will now go to the campaign, the serious campaign, where we develop stories. And I don't want to go into the depth of what are the stories, because that's what we shall do during the national lab. But we would love to work with you weekly, where we meet and discuss, have a conversation. What is the what is happening in your region, what is happening in your area, what stories did you cover, but what stories do you plan to cover, and probably share as a group. This one you could approach it like this, let's do this, let's do that. And when you cover it, we do not have, and the same thing where someone said, now DGF has been funding and whatever. Unfortunately, these people are facilitating us, but not giving us money to cover everything. But we explained to them, because they were saying, but a journalist is not supposed to be paid. They are supposed to do it as a service. And we said, yeah, but there are also challenges where journalists want to do a story and maybe they want to go somewhere and maybe the media house is not able to do that and all that. And we also appreciate, we know we are journalists. I'm a journalist, Herbert is a journalist. We've worked, we know where you're coming from. We know what it is that you will come from, say UBC, and there was no budget to take you. And maybe you're NTV, but NTV did not give you money to go to the field. And probably they gave the people in Kampala because the car was there, but probably they were looking more at... Could you kindly mute? Maybe they were looking at the headlines, stories that will make headlines, or they are saying, and a typical editor, and if I was editor, I would do the same, so I don't blame them, yeah? I used to say, excuse me, we've just been doing those stories a lot and we have other stories. Uganda has many problems. So I can imagine an editor saying, last week you did that story. Even this week? No, no, no. So that's why we have to talk to them. But they might say, we are not facilitating that. So I'm not saying go ambitious and go to Karamoja and go to whatever, but let's discuss a story together before you do it and see if we are able to facilitate it. Then the other thing that we will try and do is, if your story has run, because we also have to account, if your story has run and you share with us the link, we can give you some incentive to cover you. It's not a lot. I see a participant here called Chemical Ali doing this. I don't know if it is for the facilitation or there is something he needs to scratch, but I receive it. Something was moving, but me, I don't see anything. But anyway, back to what I was discussing. So those possibilities are going to be there where we facilitate some of the stories you're doing. And we will discuss with you as individuals, okay, when we go to the lab, this is the kind of facilitation, ideally. And of course, don't go ambitious and do 10 stories. We don't have the money. That's why it's important. Let's see which is the impactful story. But don't miss a story because you will not be facilitated for that one. Just, we hope that you pick passion and interest in this cause, such that even where there is no facilitation, but the story can run, you run it. Please, please. So that is one of the things we shall do. Then the other thing that we are going to do monthly, because remember, we want to promote policy. So if there is something in your district or your area or sub-county that happened and you think we need to talk to that health worker, maybe we can do an online that week and we are all covering that and talking about that. But the subject, we are talking about that theme, but the subject is from your area. Because you advised that and said, look, this week let's do this and that. But we shall make sure that policymakers are listening in. We shall make sure, we shall also try at a national level to invite relevant people to come. Those could be development partners and people from the Ministry of Health and other people to come and discuss with us. But you also join this discussion. So there are things that we were not facilitated. For instance, we were not facilitated to facilitate you guys to do the monthly conversations. But we feel that they are important. And maybe we shall not give you the same facilitation. But please provide time and probably we buy small data. Christine puts it because we want you to join, but yet we didn't have the budget. So you understand what I'm saying. Then there are times when we shall invite you as a journalist, one of you who covered an incredible story, and you are our lead guest, going through a subject and the experience. We don't know who, we don't know if it will happen, but it is possible that it can happen. So those are some of the things that we are going to be doing. In fact, we feared overwhelming you. If we had not feared overwhelming you and us, we were going to do this weekly. Invite policymakers weekly to be part of the stories that we did, to join the conversations, and then share these in your respective platforms and our platforms. But then we said, let's do it for a month. It gives time for the team here who will be editing some of those stories and compiling. So when you do a story, when we ask you to bring it, it's not because we want to monitor you only. It's also because we want to promote that story, put it in the monthly roundup. So you send it, and then towards the end of the month, we already know what will be the theme, but the themes and topics will be embedded in the calendar and themes that we will develop during the National Lab. So I hope we are on the same page. So don't forget that I said pitch stories. When we go after the National Lab and the campaign has started, you pitch stories. But that doesn't mean you don't run stories now. Because a lot of the stories you run, even if we might not facilitate them immediately, those are going to also help guide us in who is doing what. And of course, for us, we were given very few people to invite for the National Lab. We also have to justify this is the reason, because in each region we have very many people. But the reason we've done, probably we want you to present to the guests or to the media or to the work during the launch. So you can continue doing your stories, and you can already share them with us, with or without, before the campaign. And the training will be online, so even the people who will not come to Kampala will not miss, because it will be online. But for the launch, we will encourage as many people as possible to participate. And also we'll encourage you to report about this launch in your respective media houses, because we cannot promote other projects and then you don't promote a project which you are part of. So yeah, I've already talked about the monthly reviews. So when we are done, I can't go into all the processes, but when we are done, we hope, and I want you to understand that no one has given us any budget for this, but me and Herbert, we said we are going to look within our own resources to push this further and do a national exhibition. The good thing, we have networks. So we'll go to Uganda Museum and ask for a free space. At the end, it will be, if we do well, it will be around August, right? But that's not the end of the project, but the end of the pilot. How you perform is what will bring us 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But we are going to, at the end of the project, exhibit the stories. Invite even your bosses from media houses, invite other journalists aside from you, and invite people from government, invite stakeholders, development partners to come and review. So we shall have videos, we shall have everything. We are going to develop a mini documentary from what you develop. So we'll talk about the experience, show highlights. And nobody has funded this, but Native Voices is a media arts organization, so we are able to collect and develop a documentary. So that documentary, we shall screen it to the people who will come and also share it online. It means that we shall also celebrate you, because we shall get highlights of your best stories. We shall interview you to tell us your experience, what you have done, how you've impacted your community, and that will be in the documentary, which, as I said again, nobody is paying for, but we will foot it because it will take us. We also need to celebrate other people, but we need to celebrate ourselves. Yes, so for us, we want to celebrate you when you do the work. So that is the intent. I think for now, I have taken you through the expectations and how we hope to work. And I would like to open the floor to you. But before I open the floor, I would like to also ask Herbert here if he has something to add on or comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. One, I'm motivated by what I see in front of me, because the screen today is lit with all the participants. And we apologized yesterday that getting in on the platform was really tricky. Even in Kampala here, the weather was bad. I don't know why it is that in Uganda, when the weather is bad, internet becomes a problem. So that is not our fault, you guys and us, but it's our reality. And that's a very good point for me to kind of emphasize a few points that I'm going to highlight. Number one, I want us to begin conditioning our minds in the way we are going to work. Our day-to-day business is to report, write stories, that's it. The way we are going to work moving forward is we are coming together to coalesce as a group, call ourselves a breed of media advocates who are going to begin developing and carrying conversations. The beauty about a conversation is that when you bring about a conversation, you open it up for other people to bring their opinions on board. So look at us as a group of people who can ignite a fire. And probably it's not our responsibility to keep this fire burning, you know, but the rest of the other stakeholders and society at large. But that very much depends on how we ignited the fire and how we started it. So I'm not looking at chaotic, destructive fires. I'm looking at fires where everyone says, oh, I want to come and sit within this circle and also contribute. And that is the tone that Sarah talked about yesterday. Here we have to find a balance that we're not only being smart or whatever, we're not only being nice and whatever. Sometimes we can hit a nail on the head, direct. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is this. We are media professionals, yes, but we are going to bring media to advance advocacy. And when you are doing advocacy, the first thing that you always make sure you secure is numbers. You bring an idea, you raise an issue, and get others to support it. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's 100 media people who are rallying behind respectful maternity care. It's important that we bring the champions on board. It's important that we get the community behind us. It's important that even the stakeholders we want to target with our work also believe in us and they want to contribute so much more. So take, for example, if you're in Masindi, Oiga, Ngoka, Muri, Karamoja, you start a story. And this story, you use it to get other people to talk about the same issue. So sometimes our media, as a matchstick, when we started, could take on its other form, that whatever happens and the outcomes of the other initiatives that are going to happen or activities around your story are not necessarily for media. But what is media anyway? And these are some of the things we need to begin to appreciate. Media is no longer radio, TV, newspapers. No, media is everything. A person who takes a smartphone and records and shares on TikTok or whatever, that's already media, and that is the new media. And ladies and gentlemen, media now in the new way has a lot of immediacy. That if you decided today to go to a community center or a health center and you said, I'm just going to take voice pops of women who are expecting. Hello, madam, what's your name? What is your expectation? I know you're pregnant, you're expecting your baby. What are they going to name them? That's not so important. But do you have any fears as a mother, as an expectant mother? That yes, here when you come, you have to spend 6 hours waiting for a doctor. We are so many. The doctor is only one. He comes only on Wednesday. That's all you need to share. You don't need to write a whole story. Put it on TikTok, share it out there. You never know how far it's going to go. Yesterday, I was watching Me as a media enthusiast, I watch a lot of things. To some it might be a lot of trash. But yesterday I was watching one of the music sensations now globally. He's an artist called Charlie Puth. Some of you probably have heard of him, others have never heard of him, okay? And he was being asked a question that you are a global sensation. You have Grammys, you have Tonys, you have so many musical awards and the like, and you sell in millions of records. But what is your greatest moment? And he said, my greatest moment, I did it during the lockdown. I was writing a song, and it's his latest song, so you might want to watch it out. It's called, I think, Light a Switch or Start a Switch or something by Charlie Puth. He was writing the song because he's a songwriter, he's a producer, he does almost everything. But he thought the title of the song gave him an idea that how can I really light up this song, make it more interesting. So he went on TikTok and asked people that, guys, I'm working on a song and I want to really kind of build this song into something, and it says light a switch or something. What do you think I can do to make it really mega? The song came out. Millions have watched it. But the development process where he chose to bring other people into the song is his biggest internet sensation, because as we speak right now, I think it has gone over 150 million.
That's massive.
Just the process, not the video which is already online, not the song, not whatever. So you see how these things work. So when you bring people into your creative process, I assure you, you're creating impact. When people become part of your creative process, it carries more value. So I hope you remember that when you're thinking of what you want to do. Don't only think of the traditional ways of how you've been working. And that is some of the benefits that you're going to you're going to access when we move forward beyond even this program that's funded by White Ribbon Alliance and Native Voices. Yesterday I talked about a new platform that we are creating, and it's called Media Ideas Atelier. Atelier means shop, okay? So under Media Ideas, these are some of the things that we are going to continue building together. And for me, my interest in this is one. I work with media professionals, we help to build innovations, and they make these innovations work for them, okay? And if it gives you a lot of success and the like, that's a good thing. Next thing I want to talk about is success. I'm not going to ask you to define this now, but I want you to start thinking about what success means for you. Because as a person who I want to interest to be doing advocacy with your media moving forward, you'll understand one thing. When we are doing advocacy, and as an advocacy advisor I can advise you, you need to be very careful when you look at the end in mind. For example, if our targets are set under Native Voices International and we want to see so many stories, we want to have so many audiences and the like, and we set all these things, if you only look at that, sometimes you might get a lot of frustration, okay? Because I can tell you, as a person who has been doing advocacy in the sexual reproductive health field, we've been pushing for a policy where all young people can access age-appropriate information regarding adolescent sexual reproductive health. There is no harm in a 12-year-old understanding a conception process. I don't have a problem talking to a 12-year-old, a 13, a 14, 15-year-old about a condom and how it works, okay? But you see, most of the people who want to claim a moral lens will say, how can you talk to a 12-year about use of condom? Are you telling them to go and have sex? That's not what I'm doing. But if you listen to the data and the figures of the teenage pregnancies that we've had in Uganda during COVID, and it did not happen in schools, it happened in your communities, in our communities. Our babies, 14-year-olds who are pregnant now, who've given birth, think about the disruption in the lives of these young girls. Now, if I had given that young girl an idea that contraceptives work, and I had talked to them about the challenges of early sex debut, and I had talked to them about the dangers of STIs, infections, sexually transmitted infections. And they got all this information. Perhaps their behavior change would have been different. So, as I was telling you, from a policy angle, we've been pushing. And at some point, this policy and guidelines were going to be signed off. And in that meeting in the morning, we were all shocked when everything was shut down. You've heard of NGOs who've taken government to the courts of law because of this policy, and now the courts of law declared that no, this policy should be passed in the next 2 years or within 1 year. And now the government has appealed. They've gone to the higher court. So clearly, sometimes even when you're doing the right thing and your conviction tells you this is the right thing, it's the moral thing, it's even communally, it's the right thing to do, you will find a lot of resistance. And that can be frustrating for you. It can be frustrating for your work. So when I ask you, what is your idea of success? It's not only that because you've written a story and Native Voices International has published it or it has been published in the newspaper, that is success. The fact that you got up, went, got information, wrote a story, brought it and submitted it, there are so many levels of success on that. And we need to celebrate that as a group. And that's why Sarah was gracious enough to tell us that when we do our work, let's bring it together. Let us celebrate it. Maybe your story did not get accepted by the editor, but if you bring it back to us as a group, maybe someone within the group is going to say, but I can post this on a blog. I can put this up. We can use it this way. We can use it that way. We can share it within the NGO and CSO community. There is so much we can do together. And that's why I was telling you that in your creative process, begin opening yourselves up so that you can let other people in. I promise you, every time you coalesce with other minds, everyone is unique. People are talented, and you will tap into their gifts. You will tap into their creativity. And then the other thing is we need to ask ourselves is, how do we really define impact? That is very, very important. We cannot do things just for the sake of doing them. We always have to justify why we do what we do. And the impact there has to be clearly defined. So, for example, if you are coming from Masindi or Karamoja, is it that your definition of impact is, I want what I'm covering to be known by the district leadership and the councillors and the district council? If that is your impact, then it's very clear. You have clarity, okay? But if you just write a story and it goes out, and we ask you, what exactly is the impact of your story, and you can't define it, then we are lost. It's like we are fishing in the dark. So why am I beginning to share these concepts? Is because that's how we work. At some point, when the people who want to support us or those who are prospecting us ask us of impacts, they ask us of success, they ask us of feedback, they want to evaluate our work, I want you to begin conditioning your minds, because in a non-government or civil society development field where we are inviting you to get more involved, that's how we work. We don't just write a story, send it out there. We want to know, what did our story do? Who is using our story? Who is consuming our story?
To what end? To
what end? And at the end of the day, usually in our field, they ask us, you did this. You submitted 120 stories at Native Voices International. You brought all these stories together. Then they ask us the golden question, which justifies their support. So what? You did all that work. So what? Okay? If someone asks me, you just spent 2 days doing an online orientation with your colleagues in the media, so what? They're asking me, did they give any feedback? Are they beginning to learn something? Did they pick from our conversations we had for 6 hours in 2 days? Is it kind of influencing or igniting some kind of good ideas in their mind? Are they thinking about something? So when we do the national training, they are going to ask us, you did that training and spent so much money, so what? Okay? So these are the things that we need to begin interrogating ourselves, because they give us to understand that through the process, there is so much we can celebrate. Through that process, there is so much we can justify that we did, and there are all kinds of levels and shades of success. And that is very important for us. to always have, okay? And then finally, so finally, I want to talk about what it is that we are addressing, and how it's impacting the results that. And we will have an opportunity during the national in our current frameworks, in government documents, in documents that are beyond us, like the SDGs, the development goals. So all this information, some of it might be overwhelming for you. But what is important is that you take all that information to help you decide what you really want to address. And Sarah gave a very, very good and elaborate, colorful picture when she was talking about the work of Native Voices. And then brought it into a conversation which again was very interesting, that how have traditionally in the past our families, what has happened in today's world that has kind of changed everything the way it was done. Because as you might appreciate, our societal setups have changed a lot, our social setups have changed a lot. We grew up, some of us, meeting with the rest of our families. Every holiday you would meet your jaja, you'd meet your aunties, you'd meet your siblings, your nieces, your nephews, all of these people, and then would always come together as a family, you know. If you look in today's society, with all the urbanization that's going on, you look at most of our families, people build houses and they put boxes around them. And they will always make the argument, oh, security, we have a lot of thieves, granted, and I appreciate. But it's so shocking that if I went around asking each one of you, right now, where you reside, and I say, can you name 3 neighbors to your left, to your right, in front of you and behind? It could be that you can't even give me a single name. You live next to a person, you see them getting out in their car, they commute every day, Christmas comes, Easter comes, Eid is this week, and what? There is no celebration, there is no social cohesion, okay? And when you look at some of the challenges that we have, a lot of these things fall through those cracks. Now it might be far-fetched and you say, how is this connected to respectful maternity care? Sarah put it very well, that a child coming into this world was a celebrated community activity, okay? It doesn't only stop on now what we see today of celebrating Imbalu, you know, but a child was a child, and it was a big deal, you know. But now you don't see fathers escorting their women to hospitals. You don't see Sengas coming home to nurse the mother and the baby, or the mothers-in-law, you know. A lot has changed. And that must all inform your context when you're doing your beautiful work, which for me, I'm excited, I'm going to be looking at. And that is why we said at the end of the day that for us, me and Sarah, we are going to crack our heads in these next 2-3 months as we do this campaign to figure out how we are going to do, how we celebrate our work at the end of the day. Because number one, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be our plan and our platform launch for what we are going to do in the future. Okay? And on that day, when we are there on that platform, showcasing all our work and what we've done, me and Sarah, we're not going to say anything. But you guys are going to talk about your creative processes and what you managed to hear from the people firsthand and what your personal impacts and impressions were. And I think that's going to be far richer than even some of the work that they will be seeing that we have already displayed, which is a prestige in its own self. So that's what we are going to be doing, and I hope we start thinking that way. And for me, I look forward to interacting with you, talking to you, giving you all the support that I can, and us working together, not only for respectful maternity care, but I promise you, this group and this family that we are creating now, this media lab, is going to do a lot of work in the future. And we are going to set a lot of agendas in this country. And if you ask me, that is how we can push for development, that's how we can push for political thinking, for social thinking, for mindsets and all the other stakeholders that we are going to be